Hello, everyone, and welcome to Retro Football Knowledge. I'm your host, Anthony Manna, and we are about to embark on a new season. We are about to start the 1979 season. I'm so excited for kickoff tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'm going to be watching the Cowboys at the St. Louis Cardinals. Looking forward to that game. Got it all queued up on the TV and ready to go. That's a 10 a.m. start. And then the late night. Well, there is no late night, but the late cap, the afternoon game, it's going to be Cleveland at the New York Jets. Sorry, looking forward to that game too. Got that one queued up as well on the old boob tube to see that game. So I'm pretty excited. Anyway, that being said, I'll be posting every single Wednesday from here on out that will be recapping the previous week's games. Now, obviously, when there's a Thursday night game, we will cover it. That'll be the first game that we cover as we move into what progressed through the rest of the week. It's not all that different than you've seen in the past, but it's a little bit different in the sense that the method and the model has completely changed, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, if you thought the Super Bowl preview show was good, wait, we got a lot more to cover, and I'm excited. Now, with that being said, I wanted to get this in before the season started. I want to do a prediction show. Again, Eric won't be with me most of this year because of prior commitments and personal matters that he is dealing with. Nothing negative, just a lot on his plate at the moment. So, I will be the lone host of the show most days. So, I put in a lot of thought on this, and I thought to myself, going into this season coming up, what is the mood of the league at this point? What is the realistic options for these teams going into the season? Now, there's a few things to keep in mind here. We're in 1979. From 1970 to 1978, it's been a 5-team league. That's it. 5 teams. Pittsburgh, Oakland. That's pretty much it from the AFC. Yeah, I know the Dolphins were pretty successful, and you can have them as a floating 6. They were good for the first half of the decade and then disappeared. The rest of them have been consistently the Los Angeles Rams, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Dallas Cowboys. As a matter of fact, other than 70 and 71, actually, if even including 70 and 71, Dallas, Minnesota, or Los Angeles has been in every single conference championship game this decade. That's unbelievable. Dallas beat Pittsburgh in 70 and 71. Dallas lost to Washington in 72. Lost to Minnesota in 73. Minnesota beat the Rams in 74. Dallas beat the Rams in 75. Minnesota beat the Rams again in 76. Dallas beat Minnesota in 77. And last year, Dallas beat Minnesota. It's insane. And if you go to the AFC side of things, the Raiders have been in every single conference championship game in this decade, with the exception of I believe, 3. 1971, Dolphins and Colts. 1972, Steelers and Raiders. And 1978, Steelers and Oilers. So right now, the Raiders are kind of falling. We don't know where the Raiders are. We don't know where they're going to be. So it'll be interesting as we move forward trying to pick these things out. Now, as we know, Carl Rosenbloom passed away in April of this year. So what does that mean for the Rams organization? We'll find out when we get to that. So I want to do a quick breakdown. I'm going to start with the East. I'm not going to go team by team, division by division. But record by record. I'll be brief with the teams that don't make it. But I think Dallas and Washington are going to duke this season out all year long for the playoffs. And I think Philly's going to be in the picture, but I just don't like what Philly did in the draft, and I don't like the fact that Philly looked like a team that got to the playoffs for the first time in a very long time and then fizzled out in a very low-scoring wild card game. So I'm not a believer that the Eagles are here to stay. So with that being said, my attention diverts to other teams in the division. Washington's a solid football team. Between what they did in the draft with the linebackers and the tight end, the improvement that we've seen, Joe Theismann seems to really be the captain on that football team. The addition of John Riggins has catapulted this organization to new heights since he's arrived from the New York Jets. And I just don't see that diminishing. So I think Washington will overtake Philly for that number 2 spot in the division. I think Philly will be a close third, maybe 9-7, maybe 10-6 and still miss the playoffs. And then I think you're going to see the rest of the division kind of fall out. I think St. Louis has got to let that new young talent really kind of solidify. So I think they'll be better than the Giants, but that's not going to be saying much because I don't think the Giants are going to be a particularly strong team. So what does that mean? Well, that means Dallas is winning the division again. The Dallas Cowboys are the best team in the NFC East and arguably the best team in the NFL. And if they don't have a lot of injuries, we could see a third Super Bowl between Pittsburgh and Dallas. When I get to the predictions of the playoffs, we'll break down how I think that's going to unfold. When we get to the Central, there's not much to say here. I'm not impressed with Green Bay. I'm not impressed with Detroit. Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. Minnesota, although they didn't address the quarterback position, Tommy Kramer did do a decent job last year of coming in when he needed to and filling in for that void. And the Vikings are still the Vikings. And they haven't shown any real signs of falling off the wagon. They made the playoffs last year at 9-7, but I think they've done some things to help their football team, and they've gotten younger in certain areas, and we'll see. I think their only real competition in 1979 is going to be the Chicago Bears. And I don't think that Chicago is going to be able to beat Minnesota twice, which is what it's going to take, I think, for them to make the playoffs. So I'm going to put Minnesota in there just barely as the Central champ, to be sure. So I've got Dallas as the division champ, Minnesota as the division champ, and I got Washington as a wild card team. Now we go to the West. Well, what do we say about the West? Well, the 49ers are a hot mess. They just hired a new coach in Bill Walsh. Yeah, they had that great draft, but it's going to take time for those players to even gel, and who knows if Joe Montana is even going to see the field. And if he does see the field, there's no guarantee that Joe Montana is going to be anything but a rookie quarterback that performed in college. We'll see what he does in the pros. I think he's going to be a decent pro, maybe even a great pro, but time will only tell on that, and it's not going to happen in 1979. So the Niners are completely out of the equation. They're a non-factor in the division. What about New Orleans? Well, New Orleans is one of those teams that's never been good. They just never been good. Since the inception of 1960, they've been laughably bad. Not Tampa Bay laughably bad, but laughably bad. Now, I do think that New Orleans has a quarterback that can single-handedly win games against bad teams. Here's the key to New Orleans. If their quarterback can be perfect against the bad teams, okay, teams that don't make the playoffs, I think New Orleans has a real shot because their schedule dictates that would be a pretty favorable record at the end of the year. Are they going to be able to beat the Rams? No. Are they going to be able to overtake Atlanta? No. And I think it's going to come down to the Rams and Falcons. Now, no team in NFL history has ever won 7 straight division titles. That's what's at line here. That's what's at stake here for both Minnesota and Los Angeles. Now, I got Minnesota winning their 7th straight. So what about Los Angeles? Well, lo and behold, I got the Rams winning their 7th straight division as well. I think they're better than Atlanta. I think they're stronger than Atlanta. And I think last year, for me, it was the 5th time I keep saying 5th. It feels like the 5th because they lost in 73 to Dallas inexplicably in the first round when they were 12-2. It was the 4th time they'd been to the conference championship game, and it was the 4th time they came up short. But 78 felt different. There was a lot of injuries, including especially at the running back position, but including the linebacker position. Isaiah Robertson was about to retire. He didn't even play most of the season due to an injury. There was just so many factors going in that I don't sit here and look at this and go, yeah, the Rams bungled it once again against Dallas. I just think it was the perfect storm of awfulness that surrounded the Rams. It was kind of like 77 in the playoff game. That 77 season felt like a trial and a tribulation. It felt like a war. And by the time we got to the playoffs, it was just good to be there, right? If you're a Ram fan. 78, you felt like this was maybe your year, but Cappelletti goes down with an injury, throughout the 78 season, you're having guys drop like flies. If the Rams can stay healthy, they'll run away with the division and make a very strong statement in the postseason. They have to stay healthy, and that's been a problem for the Rams really the last 3 seasons, going all the way back to 76 was the last year they were perfectly, relatively healthy most of the year, and even then they had some injuries. So what does that mean? Well, that means the Rams win the division, and Atlanta's a wild card team. So Atlanta, Minnesota, and Los Angeles, Minnesota, Los Angeles, and Dallas all get a bye week. So they're going to be sitting there waiting to see who their opponent is because, again, Washington can't play Dallas and Atlanta can't play LA. So whoever wins is going to depend. So if Washington beats Atlanta, the Redskins will go to LA. If the Falcons beat Washington, then Minnesota goes to LA. And we might have a repeat of the divisional playoff game from a year ago. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think the running game of the Washington Redskins and the offense is more potent than what Philadelphia offered. I think their defense is far more solid than what the Eagles' defense had provided. And I don't think you're going to see a fourth quarter letdown, or a 13-point lead get blown by the Washington Redskins. So I've got Washington beating Atlanta in the wild card game and advancing to the divisional playoff game against the LA Rams. That means Dallas and Minnesota go head-to-head. That's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a rivalry that we've seen over and over again. These teams have played each other. This would be the 4th time they would have played each other in the decade in the postseason. And Dallas has gotten them twice, and they're going to get them a 3rd time. Because in Dallas, Minnesota is going to struggle. Just like they did in 77. They're not anywhere near the same caliber talent as the Dallas Cowboys, and I've got Dallas advancing to the conference championship game where they will have to go back to LA because I've got Dallas at 12-4, I've got Los Angeles at 12-4, but they meet on Monday night and I've got the Rams beating them, and that gives them the edge in the head-to-head. So it's going to be back in LA just like in 78, 2 12-4 teams going at it. Now, I just gave it away. The Rams, I think, are going to beat Washington. Their defense is too solid. Again, they stay healthy. Their offense is potent enough to put up some points on that defense now. And I think it's going to be some problems for the Washington Redskins. So at the end of the day, I got the Rams against Dallas for the 2nd time in a row, for the 3rd time this decade. Why is this one different? It's in LA. It's no different than where the last 2 championship games have been because the Rams are healthy. And Dallas, I think, is going to have this, it's just the same old sorry Rams mentality as they get ready for their Super Bowl run again. Plus, I think Dallas is smarting from that Super Bowl defeat. I think if the game is close, and I think it will be, much like it was in the first half last year, I think Dallas tightens up because they start to wonder, okay, can we do this? Roger Staubach just announced this is his last year, so I think Dallas is going to really make an effort to get Roger the Dodger another Super Bowl title before he retires. And they know their window's closing, although Danny White isn't that much of a gap between the two. I think Danny White's a pretty good quarterback. There is a gap, make no mistake about it, but it's not as big of a gap as it would be for some other teams, like say when Bart Starr retired from Green Bay, or God forbid Terry Bradshaw retires anytime soon in Pittsburgh. They got nothing. This, at least you have a good quality talent backing him up in Danny. So I think the Rams will overtake Dallas in a close one. I'm going to say 27-21 over the Dallas Cowboys and advance to the Super Bowl. Ironically, it's going to be in Pasadena, so the Rams kind of, even though they're going to be the road team, they will be the first team in NFL history to play at home in a Super Bowl. Yeah, their stadium isn't the Rose Bowl. Their stadium's the LA Coliseum, which is only a couple miles away. So this is their home turf, which I think gives the Rams a tremendous advantage regardless of the opponent. So I want to get that now to the AFC. So the NFC squared away. Rams beat Dallas in the championship game, advanced to the Super Bowl. 5th time they made it to the title game this decade, and the 5th time will be the charm for the Los Angeles Rams. What about the Central? Or what about the AFC? We'll get to the Central in a minute. The AFC, we're going to start with the East as usual, and we'll progress through the conferences, through the divisions. Now, with the AFC East, there's a few things I want you to take into consideration here. New England last year, unbelievable season. They lost their coach, they lost their mojo, and they have a really tough schedule. They have a first-place schedule. I think all of that is going to really sink the New England Patriots this year. I don't think New England makes the playoffs. I think New England really struggles, especially towards the end of the year. You could see a long losing streak that really just kind of puts them under. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team, 4-12, 5-11, 6-10. They'll be 8-8, 7-9, somewhere around there, but they're going to struggle. The New York Jets really are the team of the future in this division, but not just yet. We have to wait and see. I think that talent has to come around, so I think the Jets are going to struggle. Buffalo and Chuck Knox, man, that addition last year really bolstered Buffalo, and I think the Bills are going to be the only one to really push for the division against the team that I'm picking to win the division. I think it's going to be neck and neck the whole way between those two teams, and those games will be must-see games when they're on television. Definitely worth the watch. Buffalo and Miami. I've got Miami winning the division in a close race against the Buffalo Bills. But ironically, I don't have the Bills making the wild card. I think Buffalo misses out at probably 8-8, 9-7, and I think Miami gets in at 10-6, maybe 11-5. I'm going to go with 11-5, but I think that it's going to be a gritty 11-5, and it's not going to be easy. Winning 11 games sounds like a lot, especially with what we've had in the past. Last year was the first time we had 16 games in a season. We're used to the 14-game format, and they ain't 14 games no more. There's 16, so those 2 extra wins, 9-4 is now 11-4. I mean, 9-5. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, I can do math. It's true. I can do math. 9-5 is now 11-5. So it's not kind of the same dynamic. You're going to need to win more games to get in now because there's more games to play. So I got Miami winning the division. Baltimore's obviously going to be dead last in the division. They don't have a chance to be good this year. I know they have that quarterback, and everybody loves Burt Jones down in Baltimore, but you need more than a quarterback, and they just don't have many options. Which brings me to the AFC Central. The Pittsburgh Steelers have dominated this division for a long time. Houston's been coming up, and I think these two go at it tooth and nail again. But there's going to be a surprise entry into this division, and that's the Cleveland Browns. I think the Browns overtake Cincinnati as the third-place nuisance that could jump into the wild card spot on the final weekend of the regular season. And I think if people sleep on Cleveland, the Browns are going to bite you now. Okay? They're going to hurt you. So you got to be careful. Just ask Pittsburgh. Those games are going to be wars when they play Cleveland. Those are not going to be easy. And the thing about Cleveland is you may beat them into the dirt once, but if you've got to play them again, buckle up. It's about to be a war. And if you do have that war against them the first time and you kind of know what to expect or you take them really seriously, they may have a confidence issue because they're a young team, so time will tell. But I think Houston is a hair better than Cleveland, and I think Cincinnati, it's a shame to put them in 4th place because I think they have a decent team, but they're in a tough division. So I've got Pittsburgh winning the division. 12-4, I think, is a good record for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I've got the Houston Oilers sitting at 10-6. They'll be the wild card team, and I think they'll get in. I think it's going to be a tight race for the wild card spot, but I think 10 wins will definitely be 10 wins may get you to host this year, just because I think it's going to be such a competitive race. Meanwhile, we jump to the AFC West. So I've talked a lot about the Raiders. I said the Raiders are kind of down now, so what's this going to mean? What about the Denver Broncos? I know a lot of people are high on Denver. Super Bowl 2 years ago, playoffs last year. People are expecting to make the playoffs again this year. Why not? I mean, they played some pretty good football. Well, I'll tell you why not. Why not is Dan Fouts and the San Diego Chargers. Why not is the new addition at tight end, Kellen Winslow. And that Charger football team last year looked really good at the end of the year. And I think they're going to be even better this year. In fact, I think they're going to be so much better this year, I think you can expect a 12-4 record from the San Diego Chargers. Light it up, San Diego, because you play the Chargers, you better bring your offense. Because if you struggle to put points on the board, and don't kick field goals, the Chargers will blow you out of the water if you're kicking field goals. Because they're going to be rolling 7s while you're rolling trays. And last time I checked, you can go back and forth with somebody kicking field goals who's scoring touchdowns, and all of a sudden, 28-12 don't look so close. 35-15, it ain't a good game. So you want to make sure that you're putting those points on the board as you can. And the Chargers, I think, are going to really outpace a lot of their opponents and advance with a strong, powerful statement. They got a tough schedule now. They've got to play LA. They've got to play Oakland twice. They've got to play Pittsburgh. They got a tough record now. But with that being said, they get San Francisco. They get Atlanta. They get New Orleans. Those are 3 teams I think they're more than capable of beating. And don't forget, they have the Chiefs twice. They get the Seahawks twice. So, I mean, that right there is 7 games, 6 games, 2, 4, 7. I was right the first time. Honestly, I can't do math. That's 7 games right there. And that's just the AFC West and the NFC West opponents that they have. So we'll have to wait and see how things unfold moving forward for the San Diego Chargers. But I think San Diego will definitely advance to the postseason this year. I think they have a very strong team. So where's that leave the other wildcard team? Who's it going to be? Well, you know how I feel about Kansas City. You know how I feel about Denver and their draft. You know how I feel about Seattle. And you know how I feel about Oakland. So this is a pretty confusing pick. I am picking Denver because the Broncos have been a solid franchise since 77, really, when they made it to the Super Bowl. And I don't think they've dropped off in talent. They just aren't backing it up very well. And I think that lack of depth really hurts them in the division race. And it really hurts them in the postseason because I think they're going to end up being the 5 seed, which means you're on the road every single week. And it's going to open up with a road game, in Houston's Astrodome. So that's not going to be an easy task. In fact, that's such a difficult task that I think a lot of people might, based on that record and what the Broncos, depending on how they play through the course of the season, could really hurt them. But I do have Denver being the wild card team. So let's go through the playoffs. Okay, so what about that wild card? Well, I told you it's going to be tough for Denver to win. I don't see the Denver Broncos being able to overcome the Oilers in Houston. I just think that the Broncos are not built to win on the road. If it was in Mile High, I'd feel a lot better about that game. But I'm going to pick Houston to upend the Denver Broncos. So that would mean, because again, Miami, Pittsburgh, and San Diego are all waiting. Pittsburgh can't play Houston. San Diego can't play Denver. But with Denver losing, Houston then goes to San Diego. Miami goes to Pittsburgh. Now the Steelers are way better than the Dolphins on the surface, at the face level. Just looking at their talent level right now on paper, Pittsburgh's a better team. Not by much on certain aspects, right? You can look at certain positions and go, well, now come on, you're not being fair to Miami here or here. But overall, as you look at the two organizations, they're not even close. They may have a couple position by position it's close, but as you accumulate all the talent, I think Pittsburgh handles Miami rather easily and advances to the conference championship game again. What about the Houston-San Diego game? Do you really even need to ask? The Chargers are going to completely wipe the floor with the Houston Oilers. They are just like Pittsburgh, but different. Why do I say that? Like Pittsburgh, their rosters, when you look at them side by side, their rosters don't look as lopsided. But when you actually look at how the two teams play the game, Dan Passerini is not going to outthrow Dan Fouts. Clarence Williams is not going to outrun Earl Campbell. There's no question in that. But it's the style of offense that these two teams play. The San Diego Chargers throw the ball over the place. They play great defense, and the Oilers depend on the running game. This is not like New England, where they're going to have a couple of, freak situations in their favor here. This is over. This is over by halftime, and the San Diego Chargers are going to be advancing on into the playoffs as they will be going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Actually, Pittsburgh will be coming to them in San Diego. Now, this is kind of a break for Pittsburgh. They get into California early. They may stay if they win. San Diego, if they win, you're going to have an all Southern California Super Bowl, right? But here's the thing, guys. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. all that experience, all that big game experience, the lack of nerves, the opportunity to go for a fourth Super Bowl title in the decade just to get there 4 times, there's no way the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to take this game lightly. The Chargers are going to have to bring everything they've got and then some, and I think Pittsburgh is going to match them. For every haymaker the Chargers throw, I think the Steelers counter and punch back. And I think it's going to really take its toll on San Diego by the third quarter. Don't get me wrong. I've got Pittsburgh beating San Diego, even though they lose to San Diego in the regular season. That's why they're here. But the postseason's a different animal. John Stallworth, Lynn Swann, Franco Harris, Terry Bradshaw, Mean Joe Green, Mel Blount. The list goes on and on. Williams, at corner. Banasak. There's too much talent in Pittsburgh to really expect all of those pieces to fall apart getting into the biggest game of the year for them at this point. So I think the Steelers kind of look at this and go, we learned our lessons from Denver in 77. We handled business at home against Houston in 78. We're going to handle another upstart. And I think Pittsburgh's going to beat the Chargers, and I think Pittsburgh's going to advance to the Super Bowl. Which means Super Bowl 14 is going to be the Los Angeles Rams against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what a way to bookend this decade. You've got the NFC team that just came up this short every single year, it seems, to get to the Super Bowl. They're finally there. And they're going up against the darlings, the dominant beast that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Couple caveats. LA has not lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers under the Chuck Noll era. And their record against Pittsburgh is ridiculously good. Pittsburgh, they got everything on the line. They've never lost a Super Bowl. They've already won 3 of them. There's no shame in losing. Not that you ever want to. And you've got this team in LA playing at home, playing for the death of Carroll Rosenblum. And his dream that is opening up in 1980 in Anaheim Stadium, they will play their home games there starting next year. And he concocted the stadium and designed it up here and worked with the Anaheim Angels and built it. And that's where he's going to be, or where they're going to be. So this is kind of a last hurrah for this part of LA. This is going to be a fun Super Bowl. But here's where I break this down. The Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line gets neutralized by the Los Angeles Rams offensive line. It's happened every time they've played. Go back to 78 in the 10-7 game. Rams ran the ball all over the Pittsburgh Steelers that day. It was muddy, it was rainy, so weather didn't permit good throwing, but they ran well in the mud. This is going to be a pristine, beautiful Rose Bowl stadium. It's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be a beautiful thing to watch. This may go down as the most beautiful looking Super Bowl of all time just because of its location. First time it's ever been in the Rose Bowl. So the Rams offensive line neutralizes the Steelers defensive line. The running backs versus the Steeler linebackers, head to head, I don't like that matchup for the Rams. Collectively, I like it better. If the Rams utilize Lawrence McCutcheon in certain situations and Wendell Tyler on the outside, McCutcheon on the inside, if they utilize Cullen Bryant up the middle, if they utilize, Peacock and some of those speed running backs when their guys need a break, if they even need to use them, I think that's an advantage for the Rams. But here's where it starts to turn. Linebackers in the Rams tight ends, there's no competition. Pittsburgh's going to drown them. Completely choke them out. The outside receivers against the Pittsburgh secondary, not even close. That secondary is going to really have a good time in this Super Bowl. So that's a pretty even matchup. Go to the other side of the ball. I think the Rams' defensive line is way better than Pittsburgh's. Now, I just told you that the Rams are going to control the line of scrimmage. See why I'm picking the Rams to win? Then you look at the linebackers versus the running backs. Collectively, not collectively, advantage Pittsburgh. Hands down. Franco and Rocky Bleier have earned that. Tight end, Grossman and Cunningham are good, and the Rams linebackers aren't. Advantage Pittsburgh. But here's where it gets interesting. Wide receivers one-on-one against the Rams, advantage Pittsburgh. The Rams secondary collectively against Pittsburgh, the Rams win that matchup. So for me, it's going to come down to special teams. Does Corral make his kicks and Barr miss? Or does Barr make his kicks and Corral misses? Does Barr miss or make, and how does that work? What about the punting game? Are they able to utilize field position, forcing them to have to move the ball? Look, what's going to happen is the Rams aren't going to let Pittsburgh beat them short. You're not going to do what you did to Dallas. You're not going to throw underneath. You're going to beat the Rams. You're going to have to throw the long ball. And in order to throw the long ball, you're going to have to stop that defensive line from getting to your quarterback. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Terry all day long. I think the Rams are going to utilize their offensive line, and they're going to lean on their lines. And I think this is going to be a great Super Bowl. But I'm going to say that the Rams win this one 27-24. I think it's going to be a close Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a good Super Bowl. Pittsburgh will get their points. But I think in the end, I think the Rams are 3 points better, just like they were in 1978. I think the 3 points better in 1979, and the Rams will be Super Bowl 14 champions going into 1980. Now, we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Week 1 Monday night, Pittsburgh, New England. Week 1 is tomorrow, which I'm super excited about. Sunday, 10 o'clock kickoff. Remember, I'll be posting. I'm not even talking about the Thursday games until I do the show. So every Wednesday, look for a post, and we'll take a look at it. So I'm excited. We've got one heck of a Super Bowl to come. If it is indeed the Rams and the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think we will be given a treat and a perfect way to end the decade. Honestly, we can't go wrong if it's Minnesota, Dallas, or LA playing Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl. But I think a lot of fans would like to see something different. Maybe the Chargers and Rams would be just that difference that people want to see. Time will tell. That's it. I'm Anthony. This was Retro Football Knowledge. This is the Prediction Show, and I'll catch you on Wednesday.